It's cold outside in most of North America because it's February, but there's still stuff you can do in your garden, so let's get ready for my top 3 garden tasks for February. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It is February, but there's still some things that you can get done in your garden and things that I do every year. Keep it on? Take it off? No, let's keep it on for a while. So what you can do in February is find a day when it's not snowy and cold outside, when hopefully there's not too much ice and snow covering your garden beds, and just go do a quick cleanup. What I like to do is just walk my garden, look for things that need to be picked up, stuff that was left over from last fall maybe when, end of season rush. I'm just trying to get all the plants taken care of, and sometimes I don't do the best job cleaning up my garden. Things like I grabbed some extra plant tags that I had left out last year so I can get those ready to reuse this year. I actually got a deck box this year as well to put a lot of my extra garden stuff, like tarps and fertilizer and random tools that were all just kind of stacked up along the side of my house before. Now they're hidden away and it looks all right. I also will do one more thing while I'm walking the garden. If I have spare minerals that I use to amend my beds from the previous season, I'll actually just sprinkle those on now, and that way I know there's rain and snow coming actually in like 2 days. So I'm gonna let nature do the hard work and rain that in so I don't have to mix it into the soil, because the soil is still a little bit hard and frozen a few inches down. This way it's kind of lazy. Just sprinkle a little bit on here. I have like azomite and humic acid, things that I like to add to my soil every year to kind of rejuvenate it for my pepper gardens. And now I don't have to do anything. I don't have to mix it in. Piece of cake. And so that's the first thing. My garden looks clean now. It's one less thing I'm gonna have to do in the warm months of spring when I'm trying to really get into garden prep. And it got me a little time in the garden, which feels good. I'm happy with that. And look, I get it. You don't always get a February day with no ice and snow covering your gardens. If that's the case, just maybe walk out there on a sunny day to enjoy time standing out where your plants are gonna be. Get a little bit of that sunshine, a little bit of that vitamin D coming from the garden sun, and think about warmer days ahead. The second thing that I like to do is make sure I have all my seeds. I go seed shopping. For my peppers, it's real easy. I've got a huge collection already, over 650 varieties of pepper seeds in my collection. I have grown 250 some odd varieties of pepper seeds from that collection. So I try to pull a lot from my existing collection. But let's be real, every year we want new seeds, we see things that we want to try. So I always go to mattspeppers.com in February, shop around, think, is there any other peppers that I would love to grow this year that I haven't got seeds for yet? He's got some of the coolest stuff. That's my go-to spot for peppers. I really don't shop peppers anywhere else. But for everything else, I like Baker Creek. This is my favorite book. I buy the full catalog every year because it's so much cooler than the one you can get for free. It's like 12, 13 bucks, whatever. Totally worth it. I mean, just absolutely beautiful. So this is where I go for a lot of my tomatoes, melons, cucumbers, greens, any kind of vegetables, fruits, and even flowers. Most of that I get from Baker Creek. I also shop at places like Forgotten Heirlooms. Ken has some of the best micro dwarf tomatoes, which I really like to grow, and I'm gonna go big on those again this year. Video coming soon. But that's it. Go out and find your seeds. If you don't get seed catalogs and you like to garden, you should go get the Baker Creek catalog at least. There's a bunch of other companies that have them, but this one is beautiful. It's always packed full of unique varieties and some of those staples you just want to grow year after year after year. Great customer service, reasonable prices, beautiful photography in this thing. Lots of good writing and stories to go along with it as well. So that's number 2, get your seeds. Gotta get them. Why do you need them? That's because of the third activity you need to be doing in February, which is starting some of those seeds indoors. So those long season crops, a lot of those nightshades, peppers, I like peppers, tomatoes, eggplants, even things like basil, they need a pretty long growth season and they need a good head start. And so in February, in lots of North America, you're gonna be starting those seeds. You're gonna be needing to start those indoors, and you're gonna wanna start them so that they have about 8 weeks on average of growth before they get planted out. But when do they get planted out? After your average last frost date. You wanna make sure that there's low risk to no risk of having a freeze once you put your precious plants outside. And so what you'll wanna do is go to Google, type in your zip code and average last frost date, and see what it is. Here in Colorado where I'm at, it's May 4th. That means I'm not putting plants out in my garden, well, these types of plants anyhow, until after May 4th. But they need to grow and be mature before they go outside. I won't be planting those seeds directly in the soil, so I'm gonna start those indoors. I'm usually gonna want, like I said, about 8 weeks of growth. Some of those super hot peppers, like Ghost Pepper and Carolina Reaper and all those other varieties, they need a little bit more of a grow season, and they tend to be a little bit slower to germinate in my experience. And so I'll usually start those and try to allow for about 10 weeks of growth. What that means is I know once I put a seed in the seed starting mix, it's not just gonna pop overnight, unless it's from Mass Peppers. I swear some of that stuff germinates so fast. But typically you're gonna expect probably 3 to 10 days, and sometimes up to 30 days for a pepper seed and some tomato seeds to germinate and actually sprout. Once they've sprouted, that's really when that kind of 8-week timer starts for me. That I wanna make sure that I have enough time for them to get mature, but also not get so big that they're gonna outgrow their pots. For starting seeds indoors, you do need a few things, and I've got a whole video on how I start pepper seeds that I'll leave linked below, and if I remember, I'll do that thing where it's up here in one of those little cards, but no promises. High level, you're gonna need a few things. You're gonna need pepper seeds, or whatever you happen to be growing, but peppers, tomatoes, basil, that's the kind of stuff you should be starting 8 to 10 weeks ahead of your average last frost. You're gonna need some sort of seed starting trays. I like to use these little 12-cell 3x4 trays. It's easier to keep things separated for me. And then you're gonna need something to pot up into after the plants start to grow and get a few sets of leaves. So that would be, in my case, 3.5-inch square pots. I like to use those. I label everything with coordinate system, alphabet, numbers, and that way I always know what cell everything is. I transfer it to a spreadsheet. Again, watch my full video if you want to learn how to start pepper seeds indoors successfully and not lose track of them. It's really easy, it's really fun, and you got to put a little investment in, but you can reuse all of that equipment. So I've had the same seed starting equipment for years now. The only reason I buy more is because I keep growing more peppers. What are you gonna do? So that's it. 3 things you can be doing in February to get your garden going. Clean your garden up and do a little early amending if you're out there and there's no snow and ice. Go ahead and make sure you have all the seeds you need to order, whether they're pepper seeds from mattspeppers.com. Not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. It's just seriously the best place to buy pepper seeds. And then you need to start planting those long season crops for the summer. Do your research, make sure you know your last average frost date. Here's a tip, also find out your first average frost date and write that down, and then subtract. Find out how many days are between that, and that'll tell you how long your grow season is, so that when you're picking pepper varieties, for example, and they say sometimes needs 120 days to mature, that's after you transplant it out. So you're gonna need 120 days, sometimes up to 160, 180 days on really crazy pepper varieties. And other plants too, right? So just look on your seed packets. Hopefully it'll tell you. They don't always, but look stuff up online. Google's amazing. Know what you're doing, know how long your grow season is. It'll make your planning and these things that you can be doing in February all that more effective, and you're really just setting yourself up for a great year. I'll be back very soon. We're gonna get into hydroponic and indoor gardening again. We're also gonna start working on the garden outside. Get ready for an awesome 2024. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. Hit the like if you enjoyed this video. It really helps this channel out. And remember, plants help us grow. I gotta get this silly thing off. It's itching. It's itching, but it looks so good. Cut. What are you doing?